Welcome. Um, Welcome to the University of Otago. I think we're just waiting for one or two people to enter the room. So I'll just hang on another few seconds. Well, kia ora and welcome everybody. My name's Tony Gary and I'm the MBA director here at Otago Business School. I'd just like to thank Marie for hosting the previous two events. I'm currently teaching into an online class on a Monday evening, so I couldn't make the previous two, but did watch them. So it's my pleasure to host the third in our webinar series, celebrating 10 years of the Otago Online MBA. So, during that period, we've graduated over 500 students. We're currently recruiting our 25th cohort. And the program's going from strength to strength. And, it's recognized both nationally and globally for the quality and its focus on contemporary business issues, which brings me nicely to tonight's presentation and introduce tonight's presenter, who's Sam Barkley. Now, Sam, you've just finished delivering one of our 3-day MBA intensive short courses here at the Dunedin campus to, well, a real mixture of MBA students. I think some of our online students come down for the paper with the on-campus, but also our MBA inward exchange students from countries which include the States, Thailand, I think, Singapore and China were present in the room today.
A great group of people.
Oh, good to hear. And the course was Entering New Global Markets, for which I think Sam is very well qualified. Sam's spent 30 years growing tech companies in both the United States and New Zealand. He's held roles in engineering, services, sales, product, and as president and CEO. So just to give you a little bit of a flavor of what Sam's been involved in as Chief Growth Officer at Staying in Front, he directs a global sales team of 40, selling technology solutions to the top 100 consumer goods companies. Here's one you may have all come into contact with as Executive Director of Manage My Health, which I was in contact with yesterday. He is directing the strategy and operations of New Zealand's most popular consumer health portal. And I think it's got 1.7 million New Zealand users now, Sam, and it's still growing. And through his consulting work with Hobrock Consulting, he helps Kiwi companies launch into international markets, and particularly tech companies and consumer goods, including wine, I gather, Sam. And sometimes, occasionally, you take an equity stake and a hands-on role helping those companies to actually go global. So Sam's an alumni of Otago. He holds a BCom in Information Science and Law and an MBA in Finance and Venture Capital from New York University Stern Business School. So it gives me great pleasure to introduce Sam tonight, who's going to talk on the future of work, navigating AI and automation. Just before I hand over to you, Sam, can I remind our audience to use the Q&A? So you should see a Q&A close to your ribbon at the bottom. Sam's going to be presenting, I think, around 40 minutes. We'll see how it goes. And then it's over to questions. Thank you, Sam.
Kia ora. Thank you, Tony. I appreciate the kind introduction. I have been here this week teaching 2 courses in the 2 short courses in the MBA to a fantastic group of students, really interesting backgrounds from all over the world. We had students from the US, Thailand, Singapore, China, New Zealand, Australia. So it was a very international group of students and a real pleasure. I love coming back to Dunedin. My family roots come back to Otago. My father grew up in Waimate and Oamaru, and so we have good family ties back here. My great-great-grandfather was the MP for North Dunedin back at the turn of the last century. And so yes, we go back a long time here in Dunedin, and I do love coming back. So the conversation tonight is about the future of work and AI. AI is a topic at the moment of which there's very uneven amounts of knowledge in the world. It's so new, there's a lot of stuff going on. So I'm putting a presentation together tonight that hits some of the basics around AI and what it's doing in the workplace right now and what it might do in the future. And then I'll talk about a couple of other things that are impacting the future of work right now. I'm just going to share up a presentation very quickly here. If you'll forgive me for 1 second. Great. Can you confirm that that's seen, Tony? Great. So yeah, we're in the middle of an age of disruption. I think that's what we're seeing day to day right now. Not just in politics and economics, but in technology and in work. And I think that's the fascinating thing about what's going on right now. So I'm going to cover 3 main things here. What are these major forces that are impacting work and what we're doing? What does this mean to you? I think, and finally, a little bit of time on how to future-proof your career. Think about your career ahead. I'm expecting that many of the people online tonight are likely recent alumni or students, and so I thought I'd pitch a little bit of information about what I think people should be doing to think about the future. There's a recent World Bank report on AI and the future of work. I've drawn some information from that as well. So there are, I think, 5 big things going on right now in work. And today we're going to talk primarily about automation and AI and what they are and what they mean. There is, of course, other things going on. Remote work is a big part of our landscape right now. The gig economy, freelancing, as it used to be called, and the creator economy is what we'll call it. I'll talk a little bit about that as well. And then finally, globalization and generational shifts. And I'm not of an age that can really tell you much about generational shifts, so I'll try and avoid getting into trouble there and just focus on the first parts of this conversation. So AI is everywhere right now. Everybody's talking about it. In the news just in this last week, there was an enormous drop in stock market values for some key companies because of some changes in the AI landscape. A company called DeepSeek came forward and said that they'd been able to create a new AI an AI model very cheaply. Where large companies like OpenAI, Google, Meta, and Amazon have spent billions and billions of dollars building AI models. DeepSeek came forward and said they'd spent only $5 or $6 million doing theirs. That caused enormous ructions in the stock market as everybody tried to reassess where they're at. Now, it turns out that in actual fact, the DeepSeek spent a lot more than $5 or $6 million. Some people estimate over $1 billion. But I think the main thing to take away from DeepSeek is that they used open source technologies to build their models. The open source technologies were primarily developed and invented at Meta, Facebook, where the Llama models that Meta and Facebook have been building are all open sourced and available. So the tools that they provided and built were the ones being used by DeepSeek to create what they were creating. Nevertheless, I think that the key takeaway here is that the news is so new, AI is such a new area that any little piece of news or information really has big impacts on the market overall. A company comes out and says, I can do it more cheaply. Suddenly, everybody's stock prices fall off a cliff. Somebody comes out and says, I've got a new model. It's a better model. Other things change. So we're just in a period of enormous change right now, and I'm not sure that anybody can really predict with any certainty where we're going. So everything I say today is at risk of changing by the end of the week. So the first thing I think that we need to understand is that there are several different types of AI in the world at the moment. And when people say AI, they really mean a lot of different things. At Stayonfront, the company that I work at, we've been working on AI now for a number of years, actually almost a decade. And the areas that we've been spending a lot of investment on are computer vision, AI for image recognition, allowing our computer to look at an image and pull information out of that image. We've also been working on machine learning algorithms that look at large amounts of data and then predict what's going to happen tomorrow, particularly useful in our sales and supply chain applications. So basically, we're using enormous amounts of sales data to predict what sales tomorrow are going to be like, and therefore we make sure that there's enough supply of product on the shelf and in the supply chain to satisfy that demand. Those are all AI applications that have been around now for 5 or 10 years. So what is it that's got everybody so excited about AI in the last year? It's really only in the last year and a half that suddenly the entire world is going mad about AI. What is it that suddenly happened in that time? And the most important thing here is that generative AI has come to the fore. Generative AI using what's called a large language model, which is a very, very large amount of language data and image data, has been fed in to what's called an unsupervised learning environment where the AI has essentially trained itself on a large amount of data. What these generative AI systems are, like OpenAI, for instance, is essentially a mathematical model for predicting what the next word in the sentence is going to be. It's obviously a lot more complicated than that, but essentially they build language and create language, create paragraphs, put words in, creates paragraphs, create an answer to a question using a mathematical algorithm that's trained on all of the words essentially on the internet that these models can get access to. So OpenAI, for instance, has taken content from almost every website in the world. In fact, the New York Times is suing OpenAI and Microsoft for breach of copyright because they took all of the New York Times' history and fed that into the model. So these generative AI systems create content. They create words, they create paragraphs, they can create PowerPoint decks, they can create Excel spreadsheets. And most interestingly, they create pictures and videos. Pictures and videos that are very hard to tell from real life, to be frank. If you ask one of these AI programs to create a photorealistic picture of a person on a beach, they will create something completely out of thin air that looks exactly like it was a photo of a person on a beach. So the quality of the content that is created is quite remarkable. And that's why I think everybody's been suddenly so overwhelmed in the last year or 18 months about AI and the fact that AI might be taking over the world, because suddenly these generative large language models, these LLMs, suddenly reached a point where they were creating content that was quite compelling. If you go to OpenAI and ask it to write a story about a small bear and a small pig, it will go and create a story that is remarkably similar, probably to the stories that we all know by A.A. Milne. But I think the key thing here is that they've surprised people and shocked people with how good they are. So generative AI creates content. The other kind of AI that we need to understand and talk about are agents. Agents predict, plan, and do things, execute work, if you like, execute actions. And this is the kind of AI that we've been working on in our company now for quite a while, because we predict what is going to happen tomorrow based on an enormous amount of data, and then we create an action, an order, some kind of event based on that information. When you combine together generative AI and what's called agentic AI, that's when we really get some interesting things happening in work. And I've seen a wide range of interesting applications recently from people who have asked the internet to order flowers for their wife automatically, or asked the AI to go and order flowers for their wife. And it's gone off to the internet, opened the website, found the flowers, and done everything except pay. Still requires that you go in and put in a credit card, but it shows just how far it's come, that you can ask it to execute a task and it'll go off and do that for you. I use AI in my work on a reasonably regular basis for distilling information. Recently, for instance, I've had it take a large number of spreadsheets that we had at work and distill all the information on those spreadsheets, about 80 different spreadsheets, distill that information down into a single spreadsheet that I could work with. So this is the next step in AI in our workplace, and this is where things are going to start getting interesting. Because if I've got an AI agent that is doing something for me, like for instance, booking tickets, travel. So if I want to book travel to go to New York in March, and I ask my AI agent to go and do that, that AI agent will reach out to the AI agent of Air New Zealand and start negotiating directly with the Air New Zealand AI agent over creating my flights to New York. So we'll have this situation very soon where agents start talking to agents to execute work on behalf of both of us. That means that Air New Zealand doesn't need somebody answering a phone and taking a booking. And it means that I don't need any kind of interaction with the internet in order to go and create it. I've just asked my agent to go and book, and the agent has gone and worked with Air New Zealand to sort that booking out, or someone else, I hope. So this is when agents start to take over the work that we would do on a day-to-day basis. And this is when things are going to start to get interesting. I think also it's important to understand that before we start panicking about work being taken over, we have seen this movie before. And I think it's important to note that the advent of computers came along, and a lot of basic tasks were taken away. If you've seen the movie Hidden Figures, you'll see that there were a large number of human computers who were calculating mathematical algorithms for NASA for putting men into space. But at the same time, they were starting to incorporate IBM computers into the process. The computers weren't very accurate at the time. You needed a human being to redo the math and check the math. But that was the beginning of those kinds of processes being taken away. The personal computer revolution came along and changed things again. I'm old enough to remember when I started work, there was a typing pool at the law firm that I started work at. All the lawyers recorded into a small dictaphone machine and sent the tape down to the typing pool, and the typing pool typed it up and sent you the information back. It was only a few years after I started in that law firm that personal computers completely took over, and all those people in the typing pool lost their jobs. So we have seen these transitions where people lose their jobs because of technology, but other jobs spring up and take over. So we have seen this movie before everybody panics that these things are going away, that jobs are going away. I do think, though, that AI is significantly different from those previous generations. So I'll talk about that shortly, and we talk about what the differences are and how this will change work. In the same way that personal computers took away a lot of jobs, the internet gave them back. Suddenly, millions of people were working on the internet in various shapes or forms. Social came along, same thing. We started selling things online. We started doing things online that created jobs that didn't exist previously. People were selling things that they didn't sell before. People were making and selling things on Pinterest. People were trading things on eBay. All sorts of things, all sorts of jobs popped up that didn't exist previously. And now we've got AI coming along and promising exactly the same thing. With one hand, it's going to take away, and with another hand, it's going to give. And the question is, what is it going to give? And it's just so difficult to predict that right now, because like with every one of these previous generations, nobody really predicted what jobs were going to come along. When personal computers came along, but prior to the internet, nobody predicted that there would be SEO engineers, search engine optimization engineers, that would optimize websites for search engines. That the thought didn't even exist. In fact, when the internet first came along and Google first came along, there was really no such thing as SEO, or search engine optimization. All of those jobs, those millions of people around the world who work with optimization on search engines, hundreds of thousands, millions of people probably, those jobs were all created by the internet, don't exist without the internet. In fact, four of the five most valuable companies in the world right now exist simply and only because of the internet. The only one not on that list is Saudi Aramco. All the other four are US technology companies. So AI is going to make this the same kind of change, where it's going to be very difficult to predict what jobs will come along, but it will be very easy to predict what kinds of jobs will go away. And so cue up the panic, because everybody's looking at it and saying, well, truck driver jobs will go away. And that's true. Over time, probably a very short period of time, trucks will start to become completely automated. And that is, in the US, truck driving is actually the largest single profession. So you take the largest single profession, you remove it, that creates panic. Everybody thinks what's going to happen economically. We do know that a lot more jobs will be created. We just don't know what they are yet. We can see some of them, but we just don't know. So what are some of these immediate impacts? Well, the first thing is that we can tell already that routine work is going away pretty quickly, or will go away pretty quickly. This is low and medium skilled work. Customer service jobs are the first at risk, because AI chatbots, which is a combination of agentic AI, which does processing and thought, and generative AI that generates the voice to speak to you, those customer service agents will be quite quickly replaced. Not all of them, but a large number of them will be quite quickly replaced with AI chatbots. So that low, medium skill work, often the first rung on the ladder of work for many people, the first stepping stone into corporate life, those jobs are significantly at risk right now. In fact, the World Bank report said that within 10 years, 80% of customer service jobs will be replaced with AI chatbots. That seems like a very high number to me. Within 10 years, that's a pretty big, a pretty bold prediction, but that just tells us how much at risk these jobs are. The other area of jobs, or another area of jobs that is highly at risk, are driving jobs. Truck driving, trucks in particular, right now are being automated at a very quick rate. And if you go to San Francisco, you will be able to get into a Waymo taxi, which is completely automated. Right now, there is no driver in the front seat. You can get whisked to your destination without another human in the front seat at all. That is right now in San Francisco and in some other cities. And Waymo is now partnering up with Uber, so that in many other cities, you will just go to Uber and order an Uber, and the Uber that arrives just won't have a driver in it. So all jobs that relate to driving other people, operating a motor vehicle, are in danger in the next decade. So all of those jobs are low and medium skill work. And that's usually what we expect with technology transfers. Big technology change usually leads to a certain category of workers. With the personal PC, for example, it was the typing pool. All of those people who were typists and assistants and secretaries, that work disappeared over a period of about a decade. Many companies just don't have assistants anymore. Certainly at Stanfront, we don't have any admin assistants, if you like, at all. And so in previous technology transitions, it's always been those kinds of roles that were at risk. AI is different from those transitions in that the other roles at risk are roles that traditionally we've thought of as much more white-collar thought work. Those kinds of roles are already being enhanced with what we call co-working apps. Computer programmers all now use, or many now use, GitHub Copilot. Copilot for GitHub is a fantastic tool to help you write code. There are a dozen others at the moment. There's another one called Ninebot. Excuse me, I've got that name wrong. But there's a variety of apps now that are co-working apps for coders. Now, at this time, what that means is that it's making every software developer in the world much more productive than they used to be. These apps are taking over what used to be the drudgery work of coding, naming variables, creating subroutines, creating libraries, all these kinds of things that are kind of the grunt work of coding are now being automated by those AI tools. That means that engineers, coders are now stepping up to a higher level, if you like, of productivity, focusing on what do I want my code to do? What should my program do? What should my coding do? That's always traditionally been the job of senior engineers and senior designers, if you like. And so the senior people have always had this design role, this engineering role of deciding what and how we're going to build it. And junior coders, junior developers were always the people that executed that, wrote the grunt work code. The interesting thing about these apps is that they take away that grunt work, if you like. They take away that bottom rung on the ladder. So the million-dollar question here is, how do people get from junior to senior roles if those junior roles just don't operate the same way they used to? And I think the same thing goes for a lot of white-collar, let's call them apprenticeship-type careers. Lawyer, accountant, those PR specialists, marketing specialists. A lot of these careers are very apprenticeship-based. You start as a junior lawyer working in a big law firm, and you learn the ropes in the law firm. You don't really learn the ropes of being a lawyer at law school. You learn that in your first kind of 5 or 10 years in the law firm, doing, if you like, the drudgery work, doing long hours, working hard, learning all the time how to do things, how to handle situations. And that experience is what turns you into a senior lawyer, which is the lawyer that everybody actually needs and wants. So if we take away that junior layer of work and turn that into an AI role, that junior lawyer or junior accountant work, and just say that's now taken away by AI. I think there's an enormous question to be asked about how you actually apprentice to becoming a senior person in one of those careers. If you take out the bottom rung, how do you become a senior lawyer or a senior accountant or a senior PR person, right? So I think those are going to be the big questions that we have to face. So right now we've got AI enhancing the work that we do in these white-collar thought jobs, co-pilot, co-counsel for lawyers, Druid for medical imaging. Druid reads X-rays, reads MRI scans. In fact, there's a whole range of AI tools now for helping in medicine. And robotic tools are now taking over some joint surgeries as well. So not available yet here in New Zealand, but at the Hospital for Special Surgery in New York, your knee can be replaced almost entirely robotically now in many circumstances. So you can see that the AI there is stepping into a much more high skill kind of a place. With all of that, new AI-related industries and jobs will start emerging. Right now, those jobs that are emerging are prompt engineering kind roles where you're learning to prompt AI and train AI. So there's a whole bunch of roles around training and building and making AI. But I think it's interesting to think that AI is actually more about enhancing existing jobs at the moment. We don't see many new roles that completely come out of the blue yet. We're expecting that to happen, I think, soon. Right now, what we're seeing, though, is a lot of enhancement of existing jobs. So who's immediately at risk right now? Well, right now, financial analysts and investors. AI is much better at analyzing financial information and much better at making investment decisions, if you like. So immediately, very high-paid roles in the financial industry are at immediate risk. Legal research, I'm talking more about the more junior legal roles here. Junior lawyers have always done research and pulled together information for the senior lawyers. Customer service, we already talked about customer service being at great risk right now. Coding jobs, as I said, coding is being enhanced at the moment, but pretty soon we're going to look at situations where instead of requiring an engineer to create a program for me, I will ask the AI to create that program. So as a business person, if I'm a marketing person and I want a new website that does certain things for me, instead of going to my IT department or my software engineers and asking them to create the website for me, I will simply go to my AI tool and have that website created. That's already happening today. People aren't using them very much. They're just getting used to them, but that is next. Engineering is another high value role today that is at significant risk in the near future. Again, at the moment, we're seeing enhancement. If you're a civil engineer building a bridge or designing a road, tools have made you more and more productive over the years. And now AI is assisting you, but also now starting to do some of the work for you. So again, we're in the switchover time where at the moment, engineers are being enhanced and made more productive. But in the very near future, there is the risk that a significant section of the engineering job roles are just taken over almost entirely. Okay, that's all very negative. I'm sorry. I get it. There's a lot of roles here, and these are just the ones that I was looking at. There are, in fact, a lot more, certainly in medical fields. Right now, it's said that I've got a more accurate GP in OpenAI than I have with my actual GP. So already there are some questions about how medicine is going to be impacted and improved by AI. So all of those things sound both positive and negative. Fantastic, we can get more healthcare, we can get more legal advice, we can get more accounting advice from senior people, but at the same time, junior roles are going to be significantly impacted. With all that being, if you like, a little bit negative, and with me not being able to predict immediately what jobs are going to come up and come out of this, I think it's fun to look ahead about 25 years into the future and say what's going to happen 25 years into the future, and make some kind of longer term predictions. The first thing is that if you are in a corporate role, all of your colleagues are likely to be AI admin agents doing things for you. And instead of having traditional hierarchical corporations that we have today, we're likely to move towards DAOs, decentralized autonomous organizations, where a group of freelancers, if you like, have come together in a decentralized organism, and they work together, but they work together in a very decentralized and unhierarchical way. And the communication between them and their work is in many ways managed by AI. Earlier this week, somebody spoke about architecture and engineering and how in the future, instead of having architecture firms and engineering firms, we'll just have architects and engineers who are working together, if you like, in self-forming project-based groups, using AI to create things. So a bridge, for instance, instead of being built by or designed by Becker Engineering, would be designed by a group of engineers and architects working together in a decentralized organism. And in the case of companies that do still exist as companies, AI is likely to run most of those functions. There is really no need, most likely, to have an HR function, an accounting function, any of those kinds of things. There's no real point in having those kinds of functions in the organization because they will be run entirely pretty much by AI agents. So if I'm the head of marketing and I want a new person in my marketing team, I'll ask my AI agent and they'll go and find the short list of people online for me, deliver them to me, reach out to each one of them and ask them questions, which they'll record on video. Those videos will come back to me. I'll see the questions and watch the videos and make my decision. The agent will then go and make them an offer, negotiate with them, and the person will join the organization. So all of that will happen with agents rather than with human beings in the process. It's quite fun to think that within the next 25 years, which is hopefully before I leave this mortal coil, that there will likely be fairly common brain AI interface tools. Hopefully that means that I'll be able to remember birthdays and anniversaries and things like that without prompting, because I'll have the AI plugged in behind my ear, connected to my brain, and if you like, providing that kind of automated assistance. But instead of providing it on my computer or on my watch or on my phone, it'll be directly connected into my brain. I know to us today that seems very, very far-fetched, but the Neuralink company is making pretty big strides in that area, as are universities researching all over the world. One interesting effect of having fewer humans involved in business is that business will become much more of a 24/7 based operation. AI doesn't sleep, doesn't need to sleep. If there are agents working with agents to negotiate selling things, then business becomes much more of a 24/7 operation and less of a 9-to-5 operation. And I think that's an interesting effect for us to think about. I don't honestly know what that will mean to us and how we work, but I do think it means that overnight my AI will be doing things for me, and when I wake in the morning, I'll have a list of things that it achieved for me overnight. Perhaps it sold some things that I needed sold. Perhaps it bought some things I needed to buy. Perhaps it negotiated prices or various other things. But I expect that because AI operations will operate 24/7, that will change the way that we view the work day, even more than it's been changed up to date, right? Finally, I'm looking forward to the time when I have a little army of AI bots making money for me. And this one's an interesting thought or an interesting idea. Something I've enjoyed doing over the years is trading high-end Bang & Olufsen secondhand stereo equipment online on platforms like Trade Me or eBay. And that requires me to go on there and find, search for Bang & Olufsen stereo equipment and look at it and decide whether I like it or not, decide whether to bid or not, place a bid, wait several days, bid against other people, do various other things in order to purchase it. And then when I want to sell it, I go through that process all over again in reverse. And it was pointed out to me that I could have an AI bot set up buying and selling the secondhand equipment for me online. An AI would know much more about it than me, would be able to trade faster. And if my goal was to make money out of this, then buying and selling and buying and selling, it could work 24/7 and make money for me doing that. As my wife will tell you, I've never made money out of trading secondhand stereo equipment. I'm not sure that it's actually possible to make money out of trading secondhand stereo equipment. So obviously, money's not my goal there. It's the enjoyment of it. I enjoy the Bang & Olufsen equipment. I love the design. So that's all about enjoyment for me, not trading. But it is an interesting idea that if I've got this group of bots trading for me. Another area where you may have workers working for you is creating content for your business, online content, creating content, seeing the sales that content generates and creating more content based on that in order to try and target sales. So overnight, my t-shirt company might have a social media bot that's putting up a post, seeing whether people react to that post, putting up another post, see if people react to that, executing the buy-sell trades, putting up a different piece of content, seeing if that works, putting up. So it may be that overnight while I'm sleeping, my bot has put up 5 or 6 different types of content, paid different amounts of money to Google or Meta or whoever for advertising, and has optimized that sales process to work out exactly what people are reacting to and what people are buying. So I think having the AI agents working for you is probably one of the most likely thing that will come out of the next few years. So that's AI. What else is going on in the workplace right now? Well, remote work, the gig economy, globalization are all here, and yet not necessarily here to stay. We see a lot of people leaning back towards the office, a lot of organizations leaning back towards going in to work. So remote work is less, but that doesn't mean it's going away. Remote work is here to stay. Remote work is not going to change. Sorry, that's the wrong thing to say. Remote work is changing constantly. So it used to be post-pandemic, people were completely at home during the pandemic. They were completely in the office before, they were completely at home during, and after people went back to 4 days a week at home, then 3 days a week, then 2 days a week. And now the remote work is in some companies has gone completely away, and in other companies has become the way of operations for the future. So we see that there's companies completely in the office. There's no way around that. Elon Musk companies, for instance, he's made it very clear that everybody's in the office all the time. And he does mean all the time, 24/7. Then there's the group of companies that are if you like, halfway, 3 days in, 2 days at home, things like that. Those companies, I think, are going to find it very difficult being stuck in the middle. They're kind of in the middle of all at work or all at home. And then there are other companies that are all at home. So people are choosing their employer in some ways based on this. A lot of younger people are wanting to be back in the office. They need the social interaction. If you think about it, traditionally, that's how we've found a mate in the past is through the office environment. And so there are a lot of young people wanting to be back in the office. They also need that apprenticeship relationship with senior people to learn. That's very hard from home. So a lot of people leaning towards getting back in the office. That's changing very quickly. The gig economy, I meet more and more young people who are now in the creator economy. They're creating on Instagram. They're creating on TikTok. Their jobs are completely remote, freelance marketing people. In fact, one of the young people in in my MBA class this week has a small business that he runs providing digital marketing services for companies in the United States. He's now got 5 other freelancers that work for him all over the world, 2 in Colombia, 2 in the Philippines, 1 in New Zealand. And so his business as a freelancer has now become a freelancer with freelancers. And he and I were talking about how AI is going to change the way his business works. For a start, he's trying to create automated bots right now that'll start doing some of the programmatic marketing that he's doing online, setting up content, buying the media, in other words, deciding how much to spend. So that freelancer economy is now a big part of the workforce, and here to stay and here to get more. In fact, I think if anything, AI is going to drive this trend further and more. Finally, obviously, we're now in a global talent competition. And I think the biggest change here that this will drive for us as a society is our education system. The people that we prepare today in our education system have to be ready to compete globally when they leave school, not just with other New Zealanders. And I think that's a big societal change that we haven't made yet. We just haven't made the leap yet to understanding that that's happening. Okay, so I'm already over my 40 minutes. So let me just complete this quickly and talk about. So in terms of future-proofing your career and what that means, the World Bank and a number of other sources, when I went to them and looked at it and thought, well, what are the future skills going to be needed? Employers are saying we need analytical thinkers, we need complex problem solvers. And what's interesting about that to me is that that's what employers are saying today. That doesn't necessarily reflect the skills that they're going to need in 10 years' time. I think the skills that are going to be more needed in 10 years' time is not analytical thinking, because analytical thinking is something that AIs do very well for us. It's the results of the analytical thinking, taking that analysis and turning that into strategic insights and applying emotional intelligence to that and being adaptable enough to be able to take the input from our AI assistants and turn that into a decision about what to do, about what path to take, about what strategy to follow, how to differentiate my product from the competition, how to counter position in the marketplace. Those things are strategic decisions about where I want my company to go, but those things will be informed by the analytical thinking that the AI does for me. So how do you future-proof your career? Well, first of all, I think you've got to think of your career now as a portfolio of jobs. You may do more than one thing at the same time. You certainly will do more than one thing over a period of time. Having multiple income streams, whether you're freelancing and you've got multiple customers, or in the future, if you set up multiple bots to do work for you, in either case, trying to create a situation where you're not getting all your income from one source is certainly going to be helpful in the future. And I think that we have to be really cognizant of these freelance gig creator economies. Certainly, there is a huge amount of income being derived from influence marketing online, from creating content, creating things online. That is leading to new careers and new opportunities. Certainly, the things you're going to need are digital fluency, the ability, particularly with AI. Anything you can do to raise your skills with AI right now, incredibly important. Your personal brand is going to be very important. So you're going to have to be comfortable with putting yourself front and center. Networking is obviously critically important, and an entrepreneurial mindset about your job and about what you do in your career is I think, going to be very, very important. You've got to have, I think, going forward, much more of an entrepreneurial approach to your career rather than a I work for somebody kind of career. Everybody now works for themselves, really. And finally, the ability to learn, unlearn, relearn new skills, and see your journey as constant retraining. Whether that's now getting an MBA and then getting a certificate in something and doing something new constantly. I think that's absolutely critical to future-proofing your career. You do have to see this as, I've got to learn a new thing. I've got to be ready to unlearn what I already learned, and I've got to be able to relearn new skills. And AI is just the next example of that. I've spent a lot of time developing great skills to Google to get the right information. Google is a real skill. Getting the right thing, typing in a question gets you junk. Targeting gets you something. Now I've got to unlearn those Google skills and relearn a new set of skills, which is how to talk to AI to get what I want. I've now taken 50 minutes instead of 40. I apologize, Tony, for going over time. Thank you very much, everybody, for being so patient with me. Let me stop sharing and let's take a few questions quickly in the 10 minutes that we've got remaining.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sam, for that really interesting and insightful presentation. Perhaps I could just jump in first with a question. You mentioned the role of the States and, how the States and to a lesser extent China is the center for AI investment. How can we ensure New Zealand doesn't lose out in that space?
That's a really good question. The fact is that the AI platforms themselves, the underlying platforms, require billions of dollars, billions, possibly even trillions of dollars of investment in order to create the underlying platform. So it's unrealistic to think that New Zealand is going to create an AI platform, if you like. In the same way that, say, OpenAI or Meta is creating a platform, or Amazon or Google are creating platforms. Certainly, DeepSeek from China has shown that there are other ways of creating AI platforms, but that is a company that actually spent a lot of money, undisclosed money, building theirs as well. However, that's the underlying platform. Just like the underlying internet, we didn't build the underlying internet. Yet on top of that, we're going to build, on top of these AI platforms, we're going to build the applications, the things, the agents, if you like. We're going to build these applications that do things. And therein is an enormous opportunity for a country like New Zealand, provided we have the right skills. I think my concern and worry right now is that in my work in the US, I'm finding that every single organization that I'm dealing with in the US is investing heavily in digital transformation and in particularly in AI-related things. They're not always great investments, but they are investing aggressively in trying new things. I'm not seeing that yet in New Zealand. I'm not seeing mid-sized organizations, large organizations kind of diving in heavily into the AI space to try and work out what that means for them. So I do worry that New Zealand companies are being a couple of steps behind. We're on the other side of the world. Often we are a couple of steps behind what's going on elsewhere. I think this is one area where we're going to have to jump in very quickly and get up to speed. And I do worry. I mean, this is not a political comment. This is a capability comment. I do worry about our education system and our ability to educate people to a high enough level. I think the worry about AI is that if it does take out a layer of junior and, if you like, low-skilled jobs and roles, that skews the economy again towards high knowledge, high skill people, just like it was with the internet and computers before that. More and more people with low skills have been, if you like, disenfranchised by the economics. And I do worry that that's going to continue and even get stronger. So yes, we need to educate. We need to educate very quickly. We need to invest very quickly. Our universities need to be including AI in every single one of their courses and what they're doing. They have to intelligently think about how AI affects their area and incorporate that into their university teaching very quickly. We in universities shouldn't see AI as a danger. I think people have said, oh, students will be using AI to write papers and cheat and things like that. I think we have to leave that mindset behind and focus on how can we incorporate AI, teaching about AI into our courses very, very quickly.
Okay, thank you,
Sorry for
Sam.
the challenge, Tony,
Oh,
but there it is.
accepted. Okay, another question. People buy off people. Where will the human relationships go in this? Will buying and selling simply be an automated race to the bottom of the auction? Will AI know what the customer perceives as value and make judgments on that basis? Feeding your preferences to AI for the full range of choices of all products and services sounds impossible.
Andrew, that is a great question. There are many different types of buying and selling. You're right. Enterprise sales, for instance, selling large equipment from if you're a maker of enormous mining equipment and you're selling enormous pieces of mining equipment to a mining giant, it's unlikely that they're just going to buy it with a bot and send you $100 million for a new digger. Those kinds of sales relationships will continue to be personal. But I think there is an area of buying which has already been disintermediated by the internet, right? I go to Amazon and I buy things on Amazon. I spend time filtering through Amazon, looking for things. I spend time, going through Amazon looking for the perfect, hub for my keyboard and mouse or whatever it is. That's wasted time now. I would prefer that I had an AI agent that would go and do that for me. So I think there's a whole range of buying online that will be, much more automated. The thing about my AI is that it knows me. So when I say to my AI, I need a new pair of jeans, it knows my waistline, it knows my preferences, it knows my colors. It knows that buying, mustard colored jeans is unlikely to be what I want because I've never bought mustard color before. It knows what I've got. It knows my history. It knows me. And it'll go and find the best fit for me. And it'll go and look at, Barker's website, and it'll go and look at this website and that website. And my hope is that it's going to go and look at all those websites and come back and say, here's 3 pairs of jeans you might like. Have a look at these 3. Because what's happened is that the shopping on the internet has proliferated to such an extent. There are so many options out there that it would take you hours online if you wanted to go and really research jeans. So instead of spending hours researching jeans, I want my AI to go and find 3 pairs that it knows I will fit, that will fit me. I wear dad jeans, right? So my AI knows I wear dad jeans. It's going to go and get me dad jeans, not skinny jeans. So I do think that while you're right, we don't want the world just to devolve into the race to the bottom of the auction. You caught on to that very well. At the same time, I, as the purchaser, want to get rid of a lot of workload, and the internet shopping in general has created a lot of work for me. Does that?
Okay.
I hope that answers the question. I think that's,
Yeah.
the preferences. My AI is going to learn my preferences without me really feeding it in. It's just going to watch my habits and learn, and then eventually, having knowing what I like, it'll present me with the options for what I like. I mentioned buying flowers earlier. That's another great example.
Okay, thank you, Sam. Time for one more question, I think. As AI continues to grow, it requires a lot of computational power, which uses a lot of energy. Do you think AI will eventually solve its own energy needs, or are there still challenges that could slow its growth?
Yes, really good question. I think the challenge with the energy needs is not just energy; it's clean energy, obviously, because it's one thing to fire up another 100 coal stations to power the AI data centers. The real trick is to do it with renewable needs. And so what you're seeing is an enormous amount of investment going into that area. If you look at the stock market, in fact, the prices of companies that are developing nuclear technology, for instance, are soaring. The prices of companies that are developing geothermal plants are soaring. So there are a lot of energy companies out there trying to develop renewable energy needs. Here in New Zealand, we've got a company developing a fusion reactor, which is obviously the ultimate. So let's see what happens with that. I happen to think that the technology will be there when it's needed. So when we have this real uptick in needs, I think it'll be there. And I think there's an opportunity there for New Zealand because we do have geothermal. If we were able to attract a very large data center next to a geothermal field in the center of the North Island, I mean, there are other reasons you wouldn't do it there, like, geothermal also means volcanic, so, earthquakes. So there are other reasons you wouldn't do it. But I think there are ways that New Zealand could attract data centers through renewable energy. So I think that's a great question.
Okay. There is one more question if you want to squeeze it in, Sam.
Sure.
I've seen a lot of resistance in New Zealand's social support and healthcare sectors to adopting AI at both the managerial and front-facing roles due to concerns about privacy, losing control of the process, etc. Is this resistance an overreaction?
Yes, I think in technology change like this, resistance is often framed up as things like privacy or something like that. Whereas I think in reality, the resistance is more around control, loss of control, and with a loss of control, perhaps a loss of agency in your own role and your own job, and then perhaps loss of the job itself if AI takes over what you're doing. So I do think that the resistance is not necessarily around privacy. I don't think people should be concerned about the privacy impacts of an AI bot doing things, taking in information and making decisions or making recommendations. For instance, if you've got a healthcare agent that looks at your healthcare records and gives you recommendations based on your healthcare records, I don't think there are real privacy concerns there. It does have to look at your health records to do that, but so do people have to look at your healthcare records to give you advice. And I think the scalability of this means that everybody can get better advice by using AI than waiting for a doctor to become available. People complain about there not being enough doctors. Well, the solution is AI doctors can help. They'll make doctors more productive, but more importantly, they'll allow me to directly interact with them and get information. So thank you for that question, Anonymous. I appreciate it. And thank you very much for having me, Tony. I really, really do appreciate it.
Oh, real pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sam, once more. And thank you all for attending. And we're hoping to put on some more of these webinars in the near future. So please watch this space. And thank you again to Sam.
Thank you all. Take care.